So we're very excited to have one of our board members, Rob Fischer, who has a wealth of experience internationally, domestically, in government, in the private sector, even in research. And Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, grew up in Haiti as a young man, or I think you were a boy at the time, but where his parents were diplomats, if I'm not mistaken. So we're very excited to have his wealth of knowledge, not only on the board here, but he's been instrumental in pushing our strategy forward, but also in really helping us continue to push forward on partnerships in Haiti, a place where we really feel like we have already done some work, but we think we can actually continue to increase our potential with the support of all of our potential partners and stakeholders here in Wisconsin and all across the country. So, Rob, with that, I'll turn it over to you. He's going to give us a presentation on sort of the state of microfinance in Haiti, and the floor is yours.
All right. Hey, thank you very much, Alan. And also thank you to Jane. I'm not sure if she's there. And really Tom Eggert, the president of our board, and really the entire board for making this possible. And as Alan mentioned, I'm especially kind of honored and excited about this opportunity because I spent the first 8 years of my life in Haiti. My parents were diplomats. My mom was with USAID and my dad was there with the World Health Organization. And we had to leave suddenly in 1989 as the political situation there was unraveling. But we've maintained friends and contacts there over the years, and many members of my family have been back on several occasions, both kind of for work and for pleasure. So a long history with Haiti, and any opportunity I get to talk about Haiti, I take it. And today I was going to kind of talk to you well, about a couple things here. Number one, go over some of the challenges Haiti has faced in its development. And, you know, for those, this is kind of the first of, we hope, a series of webinars on Haiti, and to really understand microfinance and our background and our role there and the potential of microfinance there especially. It's important to have some understanding of Haiti's history and some of the challenges they're facing today. And that's really going to be the bulk of this presentation. Then I'll talk a little bit about Wisconsin's microfinance's programs in Haiti, so our history there, and then introduce you to some potentially new and exciting programming we're currently working on there. So Haiti at a glance. At a very brief glance, but if you don't know where it is located south of the Florida coast, east of Cuba. It's a relatively small landmass. It's about 10,000 square miles, population of 10 million. Life expectancy is 64 years old. There's two languages there. There's French and Creole. French is the official government language and the formal political language. Then there's Creole, which is really more the street language. And to operate in Haiti, you really have to be able to speak both. The primary religion is Roman Catholicism, but as many of you may know, there's also voodoo has a strong presence there. According to the World Council on Foreign Relations, it's a semi-presidential republic. GDP is 8 billion, and actually I'll talk about that GDP number a little later in some slides. And per capita GDP is $740. And so, long story short, it's a relatively small country measured in terms of land mass, a relatively dense country in terms of population density, and a relatively poor country. For decades, it's in fact topped the records as the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. The development challenges that Haiti has faced over the years, over the centuries really, are often characterized as an interplay between these three forces: foreign investment and debt, political instability at the domestic level, and natural disasters. And few countries have struggled with development like Haiti has. Since its independence from France, it really has been menaced, and I use that word intentionally, right? Menaced by these three forces. And I'm going to dive into each one independently. Haiti got its independence from France in 1804, but that really did not mean the end of foreign powers intervening in Haiti. And the picture there of Toussaint Louverture, which is really their General Washington, their equivalent of our General Washington, he led a slave rebellion that oftentimes we forget to mention this. It defeated Napoleon, right? And it was the first and only successful slave rebellion led in this, at least in this period. I mean, unfortunately, slavery has been around in some capacity or form around the world forever, but at least this was the first and only successful slave rebellion. And France, even though that happened in 1804, France did not recognize Haiti's independence until 1825, after its former colony agreed to pay reparations that would be worth $22 billion today. And over the next 120 years, until 1947, think about this, until 1947, as much as 80% of Haiti's revenues went to paying off this debt. And the United States, for its part, recognized Haiti only in 1862, so almost 60 years after the Toussaint Louverture led this rebellion, when Abraham Lincoln was championing emancipation at home and abroad. And one thing about the history and our long relationship with Haiti is folks may not realize that Frederick Douglass, one of our great abolitionists, he drew a great deal of inspiration from Toussaint Louverture and this slave rebellion uprising in Haiti, and eventually was the U.S. ambassador, appointed U.S. ambassador. It was a different title then, but it was the equivalent U.S. ambassador to Haiti. And subsequent U.S. administration, so after Lincoln, viewed Haiti through a mostly strategic lens. For instance, wary of encroaching German influence in the Caribbean at the outset of World War I, President Woodrow Wilson ordered Marines to Haiti in 1915, supposedly to restore political stability. And it made kind of somewhat PR sense because 7 Haitian presidents were ousted from office or assassinated in the 5 years prior to our 1915 invasion. And then during the nearly 2-decade occupation, the US controlled Haiti's security and finances. And it imposed racial segregation, forced labor, press censorship, deposed presidents and legislators that opposed the US presidents. And during this occupation, some 15,000 Haitians were killed in rebellions against the US administration. Finally, in 1934, President Roosevelt withdrew US troops and under the good neighbor policy. But the road wasn't easy for Haiti after that. After the US withdrawal, there were a series of unstable governments that followed, and it culminated in 1957 with the establishment of a 29-year dictatorship under François Duvalier and his son Jean-Claude. And this is really known, this period, and so we're really now getting into kind of the second half of last century as a fairly dark period in Haiti's history. And that's both characterized by the international community that way, but also for many Haitians who lived on the ground. The rule of the Duvaliers was characterized by corruption. It drained the nation's coffers. There were human rights violations. Some 30,000, were dead or killed or went missing. And then in 1986, which is around the time that my family had to leave, massive protests and international pressure forced the younger Duvalier, so the son, to flee the country. And it gave way to this moment of great hope and kind of a new inflection point where there was a constitution that was adopted and democratic institutions were formed. But unfortunately, the political instability persisted, and Jean-Bertrand Aristide, which had come into power. He was the country's first democratically elected president, was twice deposed in coups, and in 1901 and 2004. And both coups prompted U.S. military interventions supported by the United Nations. So there's again this theme that, you know, Haiti never, even into the 2000s, and as we'll learn a little bit here, even today, has simply not had a fair amount of autonomy in its domestic politics. Ultimately, Aristide's successors really offered very little way in terms of stability as well. In 2001, after the 2010 earthquake, Michel Martelly became the president following a contested election, which was clouded by allegations of meddling by the United States. And after all, he was a musician with no previous political experience. And he even postponed presidential elections twice and ruled by decree for more than a year. So this is in this last decade. And Haiti was cast into a political vacuum in 2016 again, when the election of Martelly's successor, Jovenel Moïse, who's the current president, was annulled amid fraud allegations. So long story short, today Haiti continues to rank among the top 15 most corrupt countries in the world. And Moïse, the current president, is under investigation for money laundering. And I'll talk a little bit about that in some slides ahead. Sorry, those were some of the characters I was talking. I guess I forgot to push the slide forward. Haiti, in terms of challenges surrounding natural disasters, Haiti is located on a geological fault line called the Enriquillo Plantain Garden Fault Zone. And if you look closely at the lower left picture, the fault line runs right through the capital of Port-au-Prince, or at least very close to it. It's also in a region, Haiti is in a region prone to severe storms. It suffers more natural disasters than most Caribbean nations. And widespread deforestation has left the country especially prone to flooding and mudslides, which strike Haiti at twice the rate as it does its neighboring Dominican Republic. And if you look at that map, the top picture, that's a kind of a classic picture of the border between Haiti and the Dominican Republic, characterized by Haiti essentially being entirely deforested, and the Dominican Republic having managed to manage their natural resources a little better. Well, a lot better from the looks of this picture, but the entire border is more or less characterized by this line between where the forest ends and where the forest begins. And there are a number of factors that also magnify the impact of these disasters, including lack of city planning, substandard infrastructure and housing, large coastal populations, and widespread dependence on subsistence farming. And as many of us know, there was a massive earthquake near the capital in 2010, which was really kind of a catalyst for us getting involved, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But it killed 220,000 Haitians, displaced 1.5 million more. At $8 billion, basic reconstruction costs surpassed the country's GDP. That's how bad the damage was. And oh, hi, my daughter just walked in. Give me a second. Yeah, you can take that. This is the time in COVID when you're making presentations and your daughter walks in. Even though I'm hiding in the basement, I was trying to hide from everybody. Between 2015 and 2017, drought led to crop losses of 70%. So our national kind of awareness of Haiti is usually begins and ends with 2010, but in 2015 and 17. Drought led to crop losses of 70%. And in 2016, there was Hurricane Matthews, which decimated the country in the country's housing and livestock and infrastructure. So 2010 was unfortunately not the last natural disaster that they have had to face. And there have also been some notable Epidemics, so dengue and malaria run rampant, and cholera, which was introduced by UN peacekeepers from Nepal after the 2010 earthquake, have killed 10,000 and infected nearly 1 million to date. And, throughout this time, many non-governmental organizations have really poorly administered billions and billions of dollars in aid in terms of helping the nation deal with these natural disasters. So where am I going with all this? In a minute, I'll get to that, but there are two acute challenges that Haiti faces today. So a lot of what I just talked about was history, and it's important history to understand Haiti, but these two acute challenges have impacted our ability, as in Wisconsin Microfinance's ability to be on the ground there in implementing some of our programming and distributing some of our funds. The first is the Petro-Carib scandal, which has led to social unrest, violence, and really overall instability. And for those of you who are not aware of the basics behind it, in 2005, Venezuela, under Hugo Chavez, gave Haiti a bunch of oil sold at cost. And this is kind of one of the Venezuela's methods for foreign aid is they may not have a lot of cash, but they have a lot of oil. So they gave Haiti oil at cost, and the agreement was that Haiti was going to use some of the money they made off the sale of the oil through taxation, so sale of the oil to citizens, was going to use some of the funds to pay for development, infrastructure, and of course use some of the funds that they raised to eventually repay Venezuela. But fast forward to 2016, everything was going to plan, supposedly. The Haitian government was, reporting or claimed to report 400 projects using $4 billion raised by oil sales between 2008 2016. But protests broke out in 2018 when the government announced that they were going to raise oil prices by about 50%. And one thing led to another, and this is now according to news reports. The Senate, the Haitian legislature, did an investigation, and it turned out, this is about 2018, that $2 billion of the government budget, about a quarter of the total economy in 2017, was missing, and it was unaccounted for. And implicated in all of this was the current president. So Jovenel Moise, his company was paid $700,000 to repair roads, even though his entire business is growing bananas. So he is now in hot water. A lot of these protests there's obviously, these protests are more complicated than just Petro-Carib, but it's a major part of the social unrest there right now. And today gas prices are up. Haitians are having to start to pay back the Venezuelan government for the loan. The infrastructure never happened. So it's a very unstable moment. And when we were trying to go to Haiti last fall and this winter before COVID, we were constantly having to evaluate the safety issues surrounding these protests. And then of course there's COVID now. And I think I can only say a few things about this, that there's not a lot of information, that the capabilities of the Haitian government in the event of a massive outbreak are limited, and there's not a lot of faith from the international community that Haiti would be able to contain a massive outbreak of COVID. And so, the World Health Organization, the CDC, various other state health authorities like the CDC, but in France and Germany and Spain and England, are monitoring the situation closely, because if there were to be an outbreak, Once again, there would be some foreign assistance and I think, actually, let me end this part on a little bit of a light note. I think the way things are going in the United States, maybe Haiti will be more like Europe and we'll be the ones who won't be invited there. So thank you for, first off, bearing with me through all of that. I tried to, believe it or not, I could have gone on a lot longer on each of those sections. And again, it's important to kind of have that background if you want to know what it's like and to live and work there, and certainly to try to plan and strategize and implement programming in Haiti. But the point is that, unfortunately, I've painted a fairly, not a very pretty picture of Haiti. And the fact is that between these, foreign debt and investments that have been poorly administered, political instability, where presidents, seemingly at every turn are getting accused of fraud, and the repeated blows from natural disasters and epidemics, we have sort of a perfect storm, if you will, for microfinance as a tool to provide some relief. And I'll be real clear first that, there is no viable state, and this applies to not just Haiti, when you don't have infrastructure or functioning civil service, government institutions that are functioning. And that's really, building that stuff is really the varsity sport of development. And while that varsity game is being played in Haiti, microfinance has the potential to provide some relief in the interim by injecting cash and capital directly into the hands of the very poor, so that they can buy things that they need to invest in their livelihood and their business, in their future, and to do it hopefully with dignity, right? And when it comes to access to financial services in Haiti, and we know this, I mean, intuitively, whether you live in the United States or Europe or Haiti, that escaping poverty requires access to capital. And according to the global Findex, in 2014, only 19% of Haitians age 15 or above had access to bank accounts. And that's compared to 51% across all other Latin America and Caribbean countries. 9% of adults, of the adult population, had formal savings in 2014, compared with about 14% regionally. And 5% were formal borrowers, compared with about 11% in the region. So microfinance is a proven tool when implemented correctly, to provide access to capital in situations like we have in Haiti, where there's little infrastructure for formal banking services, and of course, so little access to it. So on that note, I'll kind of start wrapping it up with a little bit about our history, Wisconsin Microfinance's history in Haiti, and guys a little bit about the programming that we're working on. And I think the next webinars are really going to be more about that, our future programming, but I'll give you guys a teaser right now. Wisconsin Microfinance arose out of University of Wisconsin classroom following the January 2010 earthquake. Tom Eggert, the founder, and he's the current president of the board, had a student from Haiti who was on one of the last flights out of Haiti before the earthquake. And as the severity of the disaster revealed itself, the class raised over, I think it was about $3,000 from friends and families to support the people in Haiti. And that student from Haiti connected Tom with his pastor from Port-au-Prince, and the pastor ended up founding a nonprofit that would take on the challenge of identifying loan recipients, distributing loans, and following up with the borrowers. So really ultimately implementing and distributing the loans and the program. Since the first loans were made in the summer of 2010, we've provided funding for over 1,000 loans that were distributed to build or rebuild businesses, and 98% of those loans were repaid. And like all programs, they run their course. Individuals move on, they come and go, priorities on the ground shift. And at this point, that program has officially come to an end. And really, we're very proud of the impact that we were able to have during that period and under that program. But looking into the future, we are, and currently, this is, by the way, this is one of these classic marketing tricks. And if you're upset, I blame it all. And you tell folks that they're invited to come here and hear about the next chapter, but then you tell them that they're going to hear about it really the next web. So it's a trick we use, I guess. But we're searching right now for a Haiti-based partner to assist and distribute about $20,000 of locally raised funds, and at about $100 a loan, that comes out to about 200 loans. And the good news is that we are in negotiations with a federation of farmers in Southwest Haiti, and there's, for kind of to be sensitive to the negotiations, we'll really kind of reveal more about that in our next webinar. But the good news is that it's looking very promising. And we essentially are going to continue to leverage the Grameen model of microfinance because we've seen the success, right? We saw it in the success in our last program there. And just a little bit about that model, so you're aware of what we're building in Haiti right now, is the maximum interest is 1% per loan. The loan recipients have to be part of a support group, and with an understanding that no one from the group gets a second loan or a larger loan until everyone in that group paid the first one off. All principal paid back will enter a revolving loan fund that can be used to pay for administrative costs on the ground, because in order to implement this, we're going to need folks there helping to implement the program. And so we use those funds to pay for administrative costs. And we're going to require monthly reports for accounting for how the money's spent. This is important for our donors and our communication with our donors. So we're going to need those. We're going to implement our monthly reporting. And we're also going to implement our progress out of poverty questionnaire to accompany the money, so that we can measure and evaluate the impact we're having. And again, this is important for us to be able to communicate to our donors, so that we know what our impact is, but we can use that information to hopefully raise more funds. And like I said, we're in negotiations, and out of respect for the process, we're not going to reveal too many details about it. But it is looking very promising, and we actually hope to be able to kick this off this fall is the goal. Of course, it's really dependent on those two acute challenges I mentioned, which is the social and political unrest there, and COVID, of course. So it's not clear that it'll be possible in the fall to get there and kick this program off, but that's our goal. So on that note, thank you for letting me talk about Haiti. Again, it's one of my favorite topics to talk about, and I hope it was you enjoyed it, and I'll leave my information there so that you can contact me if you'd like on the side.
Thank you so much, Rob. That was fantastic and very informative, and I think really indicates sort of the level of expertise that you and other board members bring to this work that we aim to do here at Wisconsin Microfinance. So thank you all for tuning in. One quick thing before we end the session. We will have a similar session led by another one of our board members, Rena, on the Philippines. So we will be sure to make that announcement as well, and would welcome all of you to join that when the time comes.